Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Good evening and welcome to the Brookline Select Board meeting. The time is 6:30 and I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first business of the meeting will be to elect a chair. Taking nominations for the chairmanship.
I nominate David Jones.
David Jones has been nominated. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's go to the vote. All those in favor of David Jones being the chairman of the Brookline Select Board for this year, kindly signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It appears the ayes have it. David, welcome to the chairmanship and welcome everyone back to the select board. I'll turn the meeting over to David.
Well, thank you. Okay,
Oh, thank you.
moving right along. Next up is review changes to the agenda, if any. I'll note that I think it's still worth us having a discussion about 6A, the paving RFP, but we don't have enough prepared to be able to actually do it, and I think we may also want to consider, well, we'll discuss it when we get there, whether we might want to do another site visit with Archie involved, and we'll see what we... but anyway, so that's a long way around saying I'm not suggesting any changes to the agenda. Anything anybody wants to change? All right, their scheduled members of the public is just Mark and Guy. Unscheduled members of the public, there's no one. Next up is approving the minutes from the February 21st meeting. Peter's not here, obviously. He is going to do the minutes from the tape. I'm going to send him various notes as well, so I'll consolidate any of the changes to the minutes on my copy, and then I'll communicate those to him. On page 1, the only thing I noticed is under old business, there's an SLP update header that didn't need to be there. And then down under SLP update, the first sentence, Mr. Meller reported that the window painting and repair project had been discussed with a vendor. I think it should be the vendor. Any other changes on page 1 that anybody noticed? Any good changes on page 2? I did not notice anything. No? All right, hearing none, then I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 21st as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Shelby. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of February 21st as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, those are approved. Then we move on to all of our reorganization and appointments. And first up is to elect a vice chair of the select board, which has, for the previous term, was Bruce Mello, who's not currently with us. Anyone want to make nominations?
You shook his head.
I just, I don't have the time. It would be, yeah, it would be negligent of me to accept that.
Okay.
I nominate Bruce Mello.
Okay, Bruce has been nominated. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor of appointing or electing Bruce Mello as the vice chair of the select board signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Me.
Shelby's opposed. Any abstentions? All right, that passes.
Do me a favor, Shelby, just sign that oath. Thank you. just so it's all legal.
All right, next up is appointing a recording clerk of the select board. I have spoken with Peter Barris and he would like to continue if we want to appoint him as such, so I would like to nominate Peter Barris to be the recording clerk of the select board.
Oh, that's me, okay.
Yep.
Any other nominations for recording clerk?
And you're good?
Thanks.
Thanks.
Hearing none, let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor of appointing Peter Barris as the recording clerk of the select board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Peter Barris has been appointed our recording clerk.
Okay.
Your punishment for being late is we elected you vice chair of the select board again.
Thanks. Lot.
I knew you didn't
No,
want it, so I
Shelly
voted
folded
against
yes,
you.
did you?
All right, let's hurry up. I want you to be here for this.
I need a pen. All right, it's no rush. It's good. That's Mark. Hi.
Actually, it's my fault.
Okay.
Go Joe.
Next up is road commissioner. So I have spoken with Archie Clark several times, and Archie is interested in coming back as road commissioner, so I would like to nominate Archie Clark to be road commissioner. So that's one nomination. Are there any other nominations for road commissioner?
What happened to the other people?
They lost interest
Okay.
due to Archie kind of being slightly more interested.
Yes, I thought.
In there.
Okay, we'll bring it to a vote. All
Get a
those,
check for this?
all those in favor of appointing Archie Clark as road commissioner signify by saying aye.
Absolutely.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
God, speaking of devil.
All right, there's
You
our,
missed it.
there's our newly appointed road commissioner.
Not too late now, Archie.
Congratulations,
And thank you.
but mostly congratulations. Okay, next up is appointing representatives to the Wyndham Regional Commission. I'll open it for nominations.
That's just an appointment by the select board. So you can appoint whoever you wish, who's interested. I'm interested again.
Okay.
And I don't know about Cynthia because I think she's got some health issues, and last time I spoke to her, she had a hard time getting around. So I don't know.
Well, I would like to nominate Guy Tanza to be one of our representatives on Wyndham Regional Commission. Are there any other nominations?
We'll have one vacancy then. Unless Cynthia, like I say, is interested, but I don't know.
I think yeah, I mean.
Can we
I
appoint
don't-
someone later in the year if
I
someone
don't think
expressed
that's-
interest?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, all those in favor of appointing Guy Tanza as a representative to the Wyndham Regional Commission signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, Guy, thank you.
Yep.
As always. Okay, next up is to appoint emergency management coordinators. Bruce, did you have a chance to
Yes, I
speak
did.
with the mics as to
Yes.
whether they're?
Mike Wyman does not want to do it. Mike Nelson, Nelson Fontaine.
Fontaine.
Mike Fontaine said he doesn't want to do it, but he would do it if you want him to.
Okay,
Thanks, Jesus. So, that's exactly, I called them both over
No,
everything.
No.
I think in the past it was one.
we haven't
But
always.
they helped,
Yeah.
you know, they offered to do it together.
Oh, okay.
So I don't
Okay.
know what we're gonna do with that. but-
Okay, then I'd like to nominate Mike Fontaine to be our emergency management coordinator. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Mike Fontaine to be our emergency management coordinator signify by saying aye. Any Any opposed? Any
I cancel
abstentions?
my haircut.
Okay, Mike Fontaine is now our sole emergency management coordinator. Okay, next up is F, to appoint a 911 coordinator. I'd like to nominate Guy Tanza. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Guy Tanza as our 911 coordinator signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Guy Tanza, thank you for continuing to be our 911 coordinator. All right, moving down to G, the Pound Keeper. I'd like to nominate Wyndham Humane Society to be our Pound Keeper. Are there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of appointing Wyndham County Humane Society as our Pound Keeper signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving along to 6H, to appoint an animal control officer. I have spoken with Dot and she is willing to continue, so I would like to nominate Dorothy Maggio as our animal control officer. Are there any other nominations? All right, all those in favor of appointing Dorothy Maggio as our animal control officer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One thing I will add is something we need to work on is we need to find someone to be an assistant animal control officer. So that's something we'll put on a future agenda to try to more actively work on recruiting someone.
I've got a few ideas, so.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do you?
Talk about it.
Great.
A
That's good.
backup, yeah.
That's awesome.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, that would, I think, help a lot. Okay, next up is 6I, appoint a representative to the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District. I'm willing to continue doing that despite saying I was not going to.
I nominate
Are you, is it your
Dave
final
Jones.
answer? You sure?
What's that?
Is that your final answer? You're sure it's
Any other nominations?
You're making me miss one in there, aren't you?
Okay,
All of that.
all those in favor of appointing David Jones as the representative to the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Congratulations to me. Next up is J, appoint a representative to Rescue Inc. I spoke with Jorda and she is willing to continue in that capacity, so I would like to nominate Jorda Dano as to be our representative to Rescue Inc. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Jorda Dano as our representative to Rescue Inc. signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next up is K, to appoint property manager for 624 Grassy Brook Road Daycare. I believe we've discussed previously, Mark, that you're willing to continue filling that role.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to nominate Mark Bills to be the property manager for 624 Grassy Brook Road.
I just have a quick question
Yes.
before that. Is that still a necessary position if we're going to have a building commissioner? It seems almost redundant.
It isn't,
It's not. I'm just
because he
curious.
does labor, and I ain't doing labor.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways it's not
I'm saying aye. I don't
completely
like it.
dissimilar to having a road supervisor and having a road
Because the
commissioner.
property manager, what he does is he does like every month they have to be tested,
Yeah.
you know, this type of thing, that's what he does.
Alright.
Yeah.
Change light bulbs and stuff.
I often will go to Bruce if
Right.
it's something
Yeah.
to question.
I was just curious.
Okay, so there's a nomination of Mark for that position. Are there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of appointing Mark Bills as property manager for 624 Grassy Brook Road Daycare signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thanks, Mark. And moving on to L, to appoint a road supervisor. I'd like to nominate Mark Bills. Are there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of appointing Mark Bills as our road supervisor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Sticking with the theme, next up is to appoint a tree warden. I'd like to nominate Mark Bills. I'm just going to keep nominating for things until we run out of the list. Are there any other nominations for tree warden? Okay, all those in favor of appointing Mark Bills as tree warden signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We do need to keep voting, even though we're... okay, next
zoned out
up...
on that one.
What's that?
I zoned out on that one, but yes, I.
We're calling them all now. So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
fine. So, we just have to make enough noise to make it sound like this.
I'll cough during the next one.
And you, after the other day at the town meeting, when the two of you made it sound like there were 20 people voting against what it was, I'm surprised that you're suddenly so
It's all
quiet.
that youth and vigor, you know,
I
you just
guess.
don't need to, but you just open your mouth and it just sounds like 20 people yelling no.
Okay, next up is N to appoint a building commissioner. I would like to nominate Bruce Mello. Are there other nominations?
Nope. There are no other nominations, not even.
Oh, you shut that down already, didn't you?
Okay, all those in favor of appointing Bruce Mello as building commissioner signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain. Can't vote for myself.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
And you don't have to, but if you want to abstain, you can.
It doesn't matter.
Let's say you didn't abstain then.
Okay.
It was unanimous.
Yeah, no,
Okay, next up is O to appoint members to the Brookline Planning Commission, which for some reason is hard for me to say. The only term that's currently up for renewal is Charlie Ezekiel's, and I did speak to Charlie, and he is willing to continue on the Planning Commission, so I would like to nominate Charlie Ezekiel to serve another 5-year term, the open 5-year term. Are there any other nominations? Keeping in mind that we do technically have a vacancy still on the Planning
Right,
Commission
somebody
from
resigned,
another
correct?
spot
Okay.
that has not been filled in the entire time I've been on the board, I don't think. Any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of appointing Charlie Ezekiel to the open 5-year term on the Planning Commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Okay, next up is to appoint members to the Brookline Meeting House Committee. So I've spoken with everyone on the Meeting House Committee. Leanne is interested in continuing, Carrie is interested in continuing, Mark is interested in continuing, Dan is interested in continuing, Dot is interested in continuing, Stan is not interested in continuing, and Sarah, as we know, has previously resigned from the committee. So, all that being said, I would like to nominate Leanne Parker, Carrie Bourne, Mark Bills, Dan Towler, and Dorothy Maggio to serve on the Brookline Meeting House
Can we
Committee.
add to that?
Are there other nominations?
Yes, and I hope you'll accept Joseph Duff. Joseph, come on, consider it. It's only one night a month.
Second nomination, he's turned down tonight.
Yeah, no, I just don't have the time.
Any other nominations? Okay, so all those in favor of appointing Leanne Parker, Carrie Bourne, Mark Mills, Dan Towler, and Dorothy Maggio to the Brookline Meeting House Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
This is what.
This all down, so.
Do me a favor, would you?
Okay, next up is to appoint members to the Brookline Historical Society.
So,
Bless you.
So I'm not sure who's on it now, but I spoke to Cynthia, and regardless of any of her, any health things, she would still like to be in that committee, and I think it's best to nominate her and put her on that. And then I know Doug is also interested.
Yep.
And speaking with them, I'll be on that as well with the two of them.
Okay. All right, then I nominate Cynthia Now, Doug Wellman, and Joseph Dutton to all be on the Brookline Historical Society. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Cynthia Now, Doug Wellman, and Joseph Dutton to the Brookline Historical Society signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
This is for the oath of allegiance, this is for the oath of office.
Thank you, Joseph. We're reaching out to them and then for also being on.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is are to set the time and place for select board meetings. I guess I'd like to make, I guess we do this in the form of a motion and a vote, I think. Yeah. So I guess I'd like to make a motion that we set the time of the Brookline Select Board meetings to be the first and third Wednesdays of the month, starting at 6:30 p.m. at the Brookline Town Office. Is there a second for that?
A second.
Seconded by Gwen. Okay, now for discussion. So Shelby, you're going to be able to work around that for the
Well, no, I just
period of
won't be
time?
able to go to meetings until class is over.
Right.
Like, I was like,
I guess
yeah,
so.
I can't.
Well, no, I mean, I know you can't.
I have to be at those labs, like
Right.
there's just,
Oh,
like
yeah,
tonight luckily
yeah.
we don't have a lab, so I'm missing class, which isn't awesome, but like that has to be a priority to be at those labs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So our next meeting, is our spring break, so I will be able to make the next
Spring
meeting
break.
tomorrow. I know all the kids are like, oh, spring break, I'm like, huh.
So you're
I
going
work
Fort
3 jobs and take
Lauderdale or something
classes and
like
I'm on the select board, so I don't know what that means. But okay. And then, so April and May will play by year. I should only have to miss the first one in May, if any, because we end in the middle of May. So I don't see why it would conflict later in the month. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You send out the agendas with enough notice. If I have thoughts on anything,
that. Yeah, right.
I'll just
exactly.
send back my proxy vote. Can I send a proxy vote for her?
I don't think we really
Let's
have a
make this nice
provision
and
within our
complicated.
procedures for proxy voting, so
Darn it.
I don't think
We've
that
had
could probably
meetings where I've
happen.
had Skype coming in, that's like.
Oh yeah, I can't Skype in
Yeah,
lab, that
she's-
might be awkward. Might as well just be here. But yes, that's fine as long as, I mean, yeah, that's just what my priority has to be.
Oh, yeah, right, absolutely.
Okay.
That's just 3 of them, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, they really, because the March one works out at spring break, because it's the 14th and 21st, so that one luckily is gonna be a non-issue,
That's great.
and then
That's
it'll
great.
likely be both in April, but I'll check my syllabus, because sometimes teachers get sick of teaching, and they do things like, we're not having a lab today, we're just gonna discuss things, in which case it's not really vital for me to do that.
Does anyone else have any concerns with the keeping the same timing? Okay, so all those in favor of setting the time for the Brookline Select Board meetings to be the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 6:30 p.m. at the Brookline Town Office, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so those will stay the same. Next up is S, to establish official locations in newspaper for posting meetings and hearings. I know, well, I'm just gonna go ahead. I think, we never did actually change anything last year, though we talked about the fact, and you did the research, that though we may establish the Reformer as our paper of record or whatever, that doesn't mean we can't post things in the Commons if we choose or whatever. So given all of that, I'd like to make a motion that how do we usually word this?
Same?
Does use the Brown Road Reformer as.
Yeah, well, it's more that, yeah, so it's more the locations. So do we call out each posting board? can't remember what we did
I
last year.
remember we did that last year.
Yeah, I think they did just to
I
make
think
it
so.
legal.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we establish the Brattleboro Reformer as our newspaper for posting meetings and hearings, and that we establish our posting locations as the board at the town office, the board at the corner of the triangle of
Yeah,
Hill Road and Grassy Brook Road, the
And
board at Whitney
Whitney
Hill and Grassy Brook Road.
Correct.
And if more are needed, then we sometimes do.
Well, we have the inside the office, the
It's
outside of the office,
inside the office,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So those four.
and the website.
Those four, yeah, do we really?
Yeah, it's
do that?
considered legal.
Is it? Okay, so the 5 locations, let's say, I'm revising my motion slightly. The 5 locations for official posting will be the town website, inside the town office, the notice board out in the town office parking lot, the notice board at Whitney Hill and Grassy Brook Road, the notice board at the triangle of Grassy Brook Road and
Hill Road, yep.
That's fine. Is there a second for that motion? That long rambling motion, seconded by Bruce. Okay, any discussion other than that I should tidy that up for Peter's benefit? We'll say it next time. Okay, all those in favor of establishing the Brattleboro Reformer as our official paper for posting and our 5 official locations for posting as being the town website, inside the town office, the notice board in the town office parking lot, the notice board at Whitney Hill and Grassy Brook Road, and the notice board at the triangle of Grassy Brook Road and Hill Road. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Hopefully you can find last year's notes and just make it similar to that. Okay, next up is T, to review policies. In past years, when there's been turnover on the board, we've typically given out copies of the policies and then taken time to review them and voted them at subsequent meetings. But since there's no change in board members, there's probably no reason that we actually need to do that. So if everyone's generally in agreement, we'll vote each of these and then send them around and sign them tonight, so we're done with it, okay? So first up is a conflict of interest policy. I'd like to make a motion that we all approve and sign the conflict of interest policy as is. Is there a second to that? Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Anyone feel the need to refresh their memory on anything?
No, I'll look at it.
Okay, all those in favor of approving and signing the conflict of interest policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we'll send that around for everyone to sign.
Why are these reviewed yearly?
It's like you have a new select board.
I think mostly because in the event that there's changes. And also I think to
Well, I'm
remind
saying
each
the
of
other
us.
policies and procedures, we don't review all of them yearly.
Yeah, I think these ones are done more on an annual basis because these are policies and procedures that really deal more with our actions and how we conduct ourselves as board members, as opposed to the dog ordinance or
Right,
the
Couldn't
logging
yearly we
policy
just
and
have like
things that
whoever's
are not.
new, like sign, like they're a new employee, like sign agreeing to this?
Some of those are required by the state statutes.
That's just how they do it?
Yeah.
Seems weird.
Okay, next up is do people want to review before we sign them all? I'll wait a moment and let everyone sign them before we, so no one's distracted.
I still have mine at home somewhere.
I burned mine.
Oh, yeah.
What
If
for it?
anybody needs one, I have it on the computer, I
Yeah.
can send them one.
yeah, Gwen can make copies for people. Okay, next up is the Town of Brookline Select Board Rules of Procedure. I'd like to make a motion that we approve and sign the Town of Brookline Select Board Rules of Procedure. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Shelby. Any discussion about this one? Right, all those in favor of approving
One
and...
point, is that the select board rules of procedure for the meeting and everything?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make a point. I brought it up meeting, no, nothing to do.
Did we second? Yeah, no, it was just for a second.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Just want to make a point that when we have guests from here on in, it would be really a good idea to set a time limit on. We've had several examples, I won't go into all that, of the going on to a half an hour, 45 minutes. And I think it would be a really good idea to set Leanne, Jill's, I'm just not singling her out, just using her as an example. 15 minutes, just so just so they don't get Bruce like and end up for an hour and 45
I was gonna
minutes.
say, you're gonna practice what you preach?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what I'll say is I think it is important to not have people who come to discuss things with us, especially if they're potentially emotional things, feel like they're being squeezed into a small amount of time necessarily. I mean, I agree, but case to case, it isn't necessarily
We can
the best thing
or
to
discuss it with them, how much time you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Type of thing.
But it's true, and it is part of our procedures, and so we have that we're always on firm standing to be able to limit people to 2 minutes if they've shown up and we haven't known anything about them, if that's what we want to do. But that isn't always going to be maybe the best way to deal with it. But yes, I totally agree. Okay, any other discussion on this before we vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving and signing the Brookline Select Board Rules of Procedure signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, send that around. Okay, and last but not least is the purchase policy for the town of Brookline. I'd like to make a motion that we approve and sign the purchase policy for the town of Brookline. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joseph. Any discussion on the purchase policy? Brett, all those in favor of approving and signing the town of Brookline purchase policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And there we go. That's something off of our agenda for next time. This is that.
You're gonna send me off on my sabbatical with a nice short meeting, right? The next one will be in that here,
Absolutely.
6:45.
For your, so you can get a jump start on
What's that
spring
record,
break.
Glenn?
Yeah.
Last time, was that record?
The record's 45 minutes. That's the lowest
Because
one.
we've talked about it, we've now made
Oh, we're gonna miss it.
possible. Okay, next up is 6A paving RFP. We talked briefly
Sign this one, Bill.
at the beginning about the fact that we're not really in a position to be able to firm up the RFP at this point, but let's talk about what we think we potentially want to do and whether we might want to try to put together a site visit to look at anything or whatever. So I guess, Mark, I'm going to hand it off to you of Hill Road, and not that we're talking about things beyond Hill Road that we've been talking about paving.
Well, there's the details to the paving. I did meet out with Archie to do some measuring. Archie got a measuring wheel and we got some lengths. We were in question on there's two sections to be paved. The short one being on this end of Hill Road. And the question is, moving equipment from one end of town to the other, how feasible it is. So I guess we're gonna try and get a better idea of what it would cost to grind from Sunny Lane down to Grassy Brook Road, to see what that cost would be before we decide how much grinding should be put out for bid. So we're gonna, I guess, try to gather some more numbers. There's some details to take care of on the long section, building the road up in front of Howard Osgood's where the water sets on the pavement all the time during rain or melt. There's also the details of perhaps taking out some material after the road is ground to eliminate the blind sighting on the crown of Cynthia Now's and Johnny Swing. So we're gonna bring a transit out and try to gauge the depth and how long of a section that it would take to remove material to make the road safer in that area. So that's something we want to spend a few more time with. Go ahead, Joe.
You probably already thought of this, but if it's suitable material, couldn't we just use the what we're pulling out of the hump by Johnny Swings and use it to fill up by Howard Osgood's, or do you think it won't be suitable?
I think it's definitely an option. We'll see what sort of material is under the pavement. You know, if it's gravelly, it'll be perfect. If it's more sand, we may want to put some crushed gravel over that to meet the state standards. We may do a little test site digging with a shovel on the roadside to see if that material, see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And take it from there. But yes, that's definitely an option. And after talking with Archie thought 6 inches of height might be a big improvement along in front of Howard's, and the length is yet to be determined. You know, somewhere before all of his driveways to almost to West River Lodge driveway to bring it up and then pave and gain
blended into the base of it all, yeah.
right.
I have a question. We had a meeting about, pertaining to the Cynthia Now and Johnny Swing hump there. And I thought we determined that was way too expensive. And
Well,
do you have a different alternative?
It may be.
Yeah.
I think Mark and I may have a sort of a reduced,
Plan?
maybe not quite so dramatic of a cut. I think part of the problem, I talked with Johnny quite a bit at town meeting about it, and of course he's concerned about his driveway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But if you look at it, the real hump is
it's beyond it.
yeah, up.
beyond this trailer.
Right.
For, the real hump is at least 75 feet long. We measured a stretch, shows, 250 or something, but it may not even need to go that far, but yeah, the real hump is beyond John.
Yes, it is, as you go to the top there.
So,
So basically, when we first talked about making this safer by removing the hump in the road, I had gotten just one rough estimate from the O'Brien brothers. They do paving, And I had asked him to put together a price for removing the pavement, removing that material, adding base gravel if needed, and then resurfacing with pavement. And that was just to repair that one section. And he gave me the high price. I told him not to give me a low price, just give me a ballpark to work with. That came up as, I believe it was near 20,000 he gave me. So we waited. We didn't want to do it at that point, but then knowing that the road is so cracked up and it needs paving from the intersection of Grassy Brook and Hill Road out to Howard's where the last paving started and ended.
Correct. Just above
We
west.
decided that would be best if we ground it.
Uh-huh.
And what a better time to do any road repairs when the pavement is ground. So that's gonna save a huge part of removing pavement to get this job done. So if we do decide
You're talking about the hump?
right. So if we do decide to mill, grind the pavement that we have, generally after it's ground, they grade it smooth to the shape they like and then roll it with the paving rollers, and then it's ready for paving. But we figured if we're gonna do this, that would be the time to do it and save the town the expense of having it done prior. So the paving part would just blend in with the whole project. That's gonna be done regardless. So it's just a matter of, while it's torn up, to remove that hill. And like Joseph said, if that material is usable, we can definitely bring it out to the stretch that is low and build it up there. So we're still, we'd like to measure that to see.
Yeah, one other thing we talked about is, neither Mark or I are really paving experts. I guess I would like some input from somebody that is a paving expert to, make sure that, grinding that whole section is
Way to go.
is really needed. It certainly seems like that would be the way to go. And if the blacktop's gotta be removed in those areas that are either gonna be cut or filled anyway, you don't want a hodgepodge job either, but
So you'd be grinding all the way down.
it's about 3,000 feet.
Uh-huh. So when that's done, Howard made a comment to me one time, don't know how accurate it is. There was never a good base ever done there. So when that happens, we're gonna determine at that point in time, what is the quality of that base? Correct? State the obvious.
Yeah, we can only assume,
Yeah,
at
now,
this point,
yeah, what was done years ago.
I mean, I know the basic material through there is sand and gravel. I mean, there's
Uh-huh.
a sand pit at Howard, there was a sand pit at Courtney's.
Uh-huh.
Done some digging at the cemetery. I know it's all gravel and,
Uh-huh. Brain's good, yeah. But you don't ever remember that road, even when you were on the board, way back when, if that was ever dug up before, we just paved over it? Just
it
curious.
has been paved since I was on the board.
Really? Even when you were on the board? Okay.
One thing that I've witnessed is whenever you have a road that appears to be that cracked and broken up,
Uh-huh.
you pave over it, almost within a couple of years, you'll notice the same cracks come right straight up. So if you don't grind down to the problem, I think it's gonna just.
It'll just mirror it, yeah.
A problem. So the benefit of grinding and leaving it in place, it's gonna create a new base. So then, once you pave on top of that, you've actually got something more down there. Like you're saying, what is under that pavement? But you're creating a new base by grinding that to like a crushed gravel almost. And then if we feel it needs a little bit more, it could be added. But,
I have something else to add too. Not that this should be a part of the RFP. Would it be possible that time, whoever's ever responding to the RFP, just to get an idea what it would take to do the school? Now, I'm not saying we should do it.
yeah.
I'd just like to get a
We
price,
could get an estimate,
because that's all real cracked, and I don't even know if we should do it at this point. Obviously, it all depends on money, and if it was gonna come out of the paving fund, we had the money to
That's
fund
pretty
it.
much the same area that's paved now? Not down bad.
No. Just this, that, and if it was gonna come out of the paving fund, and we had it to, we could do it, dollars wise, fine. If it's gonna come out of the school fund, I'm not in favor of that, because I need to save for, you know what, but, so if you could get a price, I just really appreciate knowing.
Joseph, what's
It's my opinion, after looking at that the other day, that it really doesn't need to be
It's
repaved.
cracked a bit, but it's not.
But
I'm not saying do it. I
Yeah,
just wanna get an idea what it was cost. So if we-
well, I guess I would just say that, I'm curious to know everyone else's opinion, but I don't, think that it's even, responsible thing to do, to ask at this point, cause you're getting to the point of just, you could ask someone what their
You know,
what their
ballpark.
paving is by
It's not a
the,
big deal.
by the, the yardage or acreage or whatever that is, but, I don't think that it really warrants having somebody go up there and even look at it, because my opinion is that it doesn't need to be paved for quite some time, and especially if that's coming out of the town's paving fund.
I
Because
guess,
it's,
I think we'd have to have a different discussion if we're to ever get to that, whether that would come out of the town's paving fund.
Right, I just wanted to get an idea of what it
Even
would
if
cost.
it was something that we did want to do, I'm not sure that would be appropriate anyway.
I have a paving calculator on my desktop, and I'd be more than happy to send you that link, and you can measure it out, and you can actually get a pretty good.
Have we, when the crack seal guys were here, did we have them?
We talked
Give
about
us
that.
No, they didn't,
I mean, that's another thing.
we focused on the,
They had some problems with their
What?
equipment, so they didn't get as far as they
Right,
thought.
right, but we could probably, the same sort of way, we could probably
Great
get
idea.
them to give us a
Because if we
ballpark of,
get us 10
just to
years,
seal that, to, you know, that might be
a better alternative.
a compromise thing, to do something with it without flat out.
absolutely, yeah, I think that's
Maybe.
reasonable, but,
Maybe I'll have to look at it again, but maybe.
Sure does.
Anyways,
Yeah.
getting back to, yeah.
What we ran into up on Putney Mountain when we milled that, it was the cost of the grinding and grading and compacting was actually, I thought, very reasonable. Where we ran into the real cost was now, instead of putting it down an inch and a half, you gotta put it down like 4 inches. You know? So there's a considerable cost involved with relaying that. That's where the real money gets absorbed pretty quickly. But we're only talking 3,000 feet, it's not miles.
Okay.
But if we do it right, you know, we'll have to look at it again for 20 more years, you know, so.
Right.
If I recall, when we ground Putney Mountain to be redone, it was like a half a mile and, like 8,500, does that sound right?
The grinding part of it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, it's
grinding,
like-
shaping and compacting.
Yeah, I remember that, I remember you guys
$2
saying.
to $2.50 a square yard. So,
is that because they take and resell some of the asphalt?
No, they leave it right in place, it's like rototilled and turned.
They don't even grind the top, a couple layers off, and then,
It's like a big rototiller.
It'll do like 10 inches at one, or
Okay.
even, they didn't do any depth, but
Hmm.
I think we got a 10-inch, was it?
Turn it right in,
And it turns it under
course you
and
won't. Be above the
Yes.
culverts there.
pulverizes it. Yeah, yeah.
That's really interesting.
I had this big picture of it crumbling.
So I think that's compared to, if you, depending on how thick the pavement has to be on top, I think that's a small, I'm sure the price has gone up in a couple of years since we paved there, but it almost seems like for the small amount it would cost, it would be a huge benefit. But
Oh, Putney Mountain has stayed real good since we did that. I don't know if you go
Yeah,
up the hill much, but,
yeah, it's nice. I mean, it really is held up well.
boulders.
yeah,
Really
and
push up through the blacktop.
And that's also the other thing, Bruce, when we did Putney Mountain, there was bubbles sticking up in the road, this high off the flat surface,
Bubbles?
bubbles.
Like-
And when we removed
Like
the
expansion
pavement,
bubbles, you mean?
well, when we removed the pavement and took an excavator and dug down to see what the problem was, there was boulders, 4-foot diameter, some a little bigger, that we took out of, so they just paved over this stuff, and over time, the frost
Blitz.
brought it up, and, but going through by Howard's, I don't think we have that problem, there's no giant boulder material in the roadway that can be noticed or seen. But like I said, if it were to be ground 10 inches, that's gonna make a new 10-inch base on top of whatever is there. Then if we bring it up in that area, you're looking at, foot and a half of new height by adding pavement and a little material, if we take it from the road or truck it in. But I think they're all great improvements if it fits the town's budget. And, just one other thing.
Sure.
When we have put out paving for bid, it comes back to us as so many dollars per ton. And then sometimes when that's put out there, I think we've had where, if we wanna extend that project or projects, at that same price, so if there is monies, available, they can, if that company will hold that same price, and we're willing to let them do a little more somewhere, that's the way it's been done in the past, I think.
Now, you mentioned the site visit. After Mark and I meet with some experts, would the board like to meet out there? Next week, the evenings, of course, are gonna be a little much brighter.
Right. I think I brought that up mainly just because we had, like we said, the previous board, we had this discussion about the potential lowering of that. And we did do a site visit out there to look at it, and we were all, I think, pretty unanimously against the idea. Not necessarily even just because of the cost, but at the time, I know I personally thought that doing that might actually create more of a safety problem than solve a safety problem. But I think where you're talking about now, about taking down some height, doesn't sound as significant as what we were looking at before, and it also, merely the fact that it's further past Johnny's shop changes things for me of being as concerned about it probably. But I don't know, what do other people
You're talking
think?
it down in.
Yeah, it was
There's
more
one
of
other
the,
issue, though. There's one other issue. It's probably not so much related to the actual road part itself, but Todd Lowley, when we were at the site visit, did he speak to you, Dave? Because you mentioned to me that they're having a big problem with water splashing into their area, and I don't know if we can reshape it in some way to keep them happy. Maybe it's a better discussion with Todd, maybe it's just not needed, I don't know, not my forte, but it's something that was brought up at that site visit.
yeah, it's a pretty tough spot. They're pretty low.
You live at the bottom of the hill, I think
how
there's only
much-
so much change
Exactly,
to do.
right, yeah.
And the other thing, if we were gonna dig that, we were looking at the bank on Cynthia's side. She has offered to dispose of that.
That tree, yeah, which would be good.
It's sort of sitting right at the
Yeah.
top of the bank that It literally, the grass goes right down to the blacktop, it goes right up like that. There's no room for snow removal or water or,
Drainage, yeah.
you know, ideally, you know, you dig that back a few feet, have a slight ditch there and a place for the water to go. But that's gonna divert it right toward, which is where it ends up at.
It's going there anyway.
Toward Cynthia's.
Okay.
I was just curious, would the changing the elevation of the road, would that create a little more extra shoulder work that would have to be done there? And that, especially by Howard's, and, you know,
Yeah, you'd have to build the edge up as well, yeah.
and then so driveways would have to be restructured, I guess, or?
Just a ramp, you know, using
Okay.
gravel, which is normally what we always do anyway, a gravel apron.
Right, but if you come up 6, 8 inches, that's gonna create a big ledge there,
Yeah, right.
by his farm, and pretty much everywhere alongside if you bring it up there. So that might be, you know, another thing to
Yeah, you
consider.
know, generally after every paving, we have the drop off because it builds a height and
Yep,
we fill the shoulder up at least a foot, out beyond the edge of the pavement. And the driveway, generally, when they pave a driveway, they'll pave in. And
right, I just didn't wanna have Howard say, you're putting me in a hole in something, cause sometimes, you know, they can get, some people can get pretty caustic about that, saying, gee whiz, you know, now I've got my puddle here because you raised the road. I'm just wondering how you would be able to address that, you know, to keep everybody happy.
Well, we could go and talk to Howard and
Yeah.
explain ourselves,
Cause you know Howard.
but it's a constant battle, you know. The water sets in the lane completely and then on
Yep.
his lawn completely, so if the road was built up, it would improve the quality of the road.
So you would crown it toward the cemetery side?
Well, it would crown in the middle, it would be
Okay.
equal, you know. It
Yeah, I know, that's
would
the
run off
law.
both sides, and, you know, there is no place for drainage there, it's
Yep.
just, it's a flat area, and, I know if Howard's driveway was built up a tiny bit, it would keep his driveway dry and the water, would stay off the edge until it absorbed into the ground. So we could speak with Howard so that he knows
Yeah.
that that's a plan if we do decide to.
Probably best practice just to reach out to any property owners that like it's gonna be more than the norm, like if you're going, you know, if you're going out of the norm, just a layer of pavement, and it's gonna impact them, it's a lot less of an issue if you hear from it in advance than if you see an RFP and you're reading it, and you're like, whoa. Or you don't even read the RFP and then all of a sudden there's people outside and you're like, oh.
Right.
I was just counting, I think there's only like 6 or 7 driveways from,
Yeah, there's not many
from
on
the
that
bottom of the
stretch.
hill to the corner.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, the one
With
that's,
Johnny and Cynthia.
right.
Yeah, I'd be more than glad to talk to all of them.
On Lucier's old house.
Explain the whole thing, and also a few details, like Archie said, if we dig off the bank by Mrs. Now, the fruit tree goes away. On the opposite side, on Johnny's side, going toward Howard's, there's some old fence posts with
Yeah.
sheep fence, still buried into the wood, the stumps. And so for that reason, it's hard to maintain the brush in the summertime. You'll notice the brush weeps out all the way to the pavement. And it's hard to find it without getting entangled in it with a mower. And so I figured if we were working there, there's some old stumps from trees that the town had removed. And then there's fence posts with the sheep fence, barbed wire, that we could, it's in the town right of way. If we talk to the landowners, which is Mrs. Now at this point, removing all that debris and stumps and creating a ditch that would drain. And then it wouldn't be like coming through there, I do have a sign up that says caution, hidden drive. And it gets brushed in very regular. There's shoe mat which grows like a weed and it weeds. There's briars and I don't know, all these invasive species through there that I figured that if the road's gonna get redone, that would be a good time to eliminate that problem down the side of the road, which would take a day or so to do that.
Jen, I know one of the problems that they just talked about water going down towards like the Snow's barn. Doing anything on that side of the road as well as like by the apple tree there, the water's still gonna end up there, but at the very least you're with a nice ditch, whether it be lined with stone or just grass, that improves your runoff coefficient compared to just asphalt. So I mean it's gonna improve the situation a little bit. There's no way to make it worse, because right now it's just, like Archie said, it's just bank, asphalt, and that's like 100%
Right.
runoff.
I think fortunately, the type of material that's under the surface allows a lot of draining to just seep. And some of it does run down and collects. One of the problems, the driveway into the bus station there, is the fact that it's not a built-up road to shed water. The problem is, it's a dip.
Yeah.
There's major potholes there, so when the bus goes through them, the water starts to leave the road and then it tweaks back.
Yeah.
So any water that does come down through eventually ends up in that sag, so ideally, the driveway should be built up with the material, which, you know, then it's gonna crowd the water to the left and eventually spread out. So maybe if that were to happen, I don't see how you could actually apply the right size culvert to get the water to go under the driveway to eliminate water setting in the.
Yeah.
But if they were to build that up, it would eliminate the bumps and the, you know, the driveway issue with water. But again, you know, where Archie's talking about starting and stopping, we're quite a ways from that driveway, so we're really not working down toward those driveways. It would be almost to the corner of John's shop north. You know, at first, when I brought this up, it was gonna be from a telephone pole to a telephone pole. And then after talking with Archie, we decided that, yeah, if you stand back and look, the crown in the road is further north. So we figured we could stay from about the fruit tree north and be less, we were gonna do below, but we will consider any improvements that could be made if this is to be done to the lower driveways as well.
Okay, anything else at the moment on that? All right, we'll put this back on the agenda for next time, and maybe we can at least have a sense of, so we will probably, in all likelihood, we'll do a separate grinding, well, I just mean as far as the RFPs are concerned, we'll do a paving one and a grinding one with details of each to be determined, but we will probably do separate ones, because that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because there's some companies that will do just grinding, some do just paving, some have both features.
Which we did, like I said, we did it, and we put it out that way when we did Putney Mountain too, so I just have to go back and find those. I mean, I think you did them probably for us anyway, but we've got, it basically will be the same structure, just with different numbers plugged in, okay, all right.
So if we come to a conclusion on what we feel would like to be done, do you want to come out and revisit and see those plans, or?
How do people feel about
You
it?
just want to see our numbers?
I don't necessarily feel the need to do a visit for it anymore. It was really, what you guys are describing alleviates what my concerns have been.
If you cut down, 8 inches in front of Johnny's driveway, His driveway's already
Right,
like this.
exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna go like
It's
this.
such a short distance to his building,
Right.
it's gonna double the,
Incline.
percentage of grade to his short driveway, you know?
Right.
Then you could,
If you,
And also just some of the visibility things at the time by doing that, I think were, yeah, I actually thought they were gonna make,
But
they were
because-
gonna actually encourage people to go faster even through some of those areas,
Yeah,
which
really
on some level
yeah,
might still be the case, but at least if visibility is.
raising that
It's gonna
driveway
be-
up a bit, I think, would also improve visibility. If you were sitting a foot higher, you'd be able to see better
Right.
too.
But that driveway,
You wouldn't be in a hole, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
that's something the owner would
Yeah,
have to
Right,
do.
right.
But,
I'm saying,
right, but
But that
there's
should
only
be
so
part of
much,
the
yeah.
recommendation.
Okay, anything else on this? From anybody? All right, we'll discuss it again next time. Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
So next up is, on old business is the road equipment purchase next steps, maybe to just discuss a little
one
bit.
small thing in new business,
What is that?
tiny. The email that we received today from Olivia related to bills, I don't know if you all saw it. There are 2 bills that she received. I had your contact names on, I believe.
Yeah.
I looked at it
Just
real
came this
fast.
afternoon.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
No,
I
it's
haven't-
not. Now, do you know about it?
Yeah, I sent it to everyone.
You did, okay.
Yes.
The first bill, the one about the
Vermont Water and Sewer.
Drain, that's legitimate.
Yep.
My question is, and I sent a question to Samara to see if she could respond, and I said, well, Guy probably knows the answer to this. Are you familiar with the billing of the fire portion of that building? Do you know anything about that?
Right, there was some sort of formula that they used that the town would pay a certain part and then they would pay the other part. I think we'd have to speak to Samara and see what that language was. But it was because the Southwest Mutual Aid had to have a line to protect the
So
building.
what, yeah,
What was it, $60
Probably
a
check
month?
You look
the,
into
check the
it.
lease.
I don't remember.
Now she's hitting us with a $700.
yeah, it's in the
It's
lease.
in, it's gotta be in the lease.
The details are
I'll
there.
look when I get
So
home.
yeah, so that's something,
I'll look at it later.
yeah, right.
I thought it was last minute, I was getting ready to come here.
And,
that's-
whatever, we don't, I mean, we'll get back to her when we can
Yeah, I
research
told
it
her
and
that.
understand it.
I
Yeah,
told her to
okay.
look into it.
Yeah, I just, we see it.
Okay. That's
Okay, cool. So yeah, moving on to old business, so discussing the road equipment purchase next steps. I don't know, is there
Yeah,
really
so-
anything different than, I mean, I thought did a very good job of summarizing where things are at town meeting, is there?
Well,
We learned more.
for one, right after I finished talking, I realized the one part of, was it Stan's question that I didn't answer, was the price.
Yeah.
And that's probably the one that everyone wanted to know the most. One of the
Right.
people asked to
Oh, did-
clarify what we were looking for,
Size.
piece of equipment, size, all that.
Oh.
And I clarified all that and I totally forgot about price, but I mean, we've
All
all,
little details.
yeah. Not a big deal.
It's funny, I heard him ask that and I didn't,
They don't
I-
need to know.
I didn't assume that he necessarily was expecting to have an idea of price. I thought it was more on the what kind of machine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
What you
really
answered.
what-
I thought it was more
what
what you
we didn't
answered,
ask
but
again.
But
yeah.
for a minute, Mark, you ought to kind of explain to the discussion we had afterwards about the size that Newfane has, and they're not happy with it.
Well, yes,
Because it goes, just it's like it goes into what you were saying, Joseph, when we were deciding about what size to go with. Go ahead.
But they paid $1 quadrillion for a brand new machine.
$250,000
Yeah.
bucks, nuts.
That's way out of our price range.
Bless America.
Well, I mean, it's a good machine, it's just large.
It's a cat.
So has there been any more word from any of the potential rental places about
Yeah,
equipment and any of that?
I expect that I probably have an email in my inbox. We were trying to check it out there. Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely, we have email traffic going on between, one of the places, the piece of equipment that we would like to rent. so no real update, unless, just curious, I don't think I've ever gotten a full, consensus if everyone on the board, thinks renting a piece of equipment for the summer is a good idea. Price dependent, but, other than that, do you guys think it would be a good idea to rent something for the summer?
In place of the equipment that we were already planning on renting for the
Yes, it would.
for the mowing.
It
So
would
basically,
replace
we would, the theory being we would just rent a different piece of equipment to
Or do
accomplish
more than
that.
one thing.
And maybe do other things with it, but
It would be for a
in
much
place.
longer period of time. It would certainly be much more expensive than what we've already reserved,
okay.
but, that,
I don't know that I understood that from
Okay.
the summary before.
so the idea that, and Mark and Archie can jump in if they have something else, but the idea was that we were gonna rent, a similar piece of equipment to what we're looking at buying for several months. That way, we can not only use it to mow with and finish all of those jobs, but Mark can use it to, kinda tick off everything on his list that's been building
Like
up.
ditches and culverts and that type of
Ditches.
thing.
We can use it for culvert jobs when we need to do that. And at the same time as all of that as work is being accomplished, at the same time, we're getting kind of a real world, we're collecting real world data on if everything we talked about is actually gonna work out. If, the amount of hours Mark's putting on it in his average week and all that, because since we would have this for, several months, a longer period of time, it's not like it's 1 week that Mark is setting aside to come here for. It's gonna mimic what owning a piece of equipment would be like for the town, so we can really see how it's
And
gonna
this
work.
way it makes sure that he knows how to operate everything, which is a good thing.
But,
To see if it functions.
yeah,
Yeah,
Works
that's
for
what I
you.
meant.
Works for me.
but yeah, and then obviously prices is
Yeah,
dependent.
the big thing would be what they're gonna charge for rental.
Right.
and make
I think just knowing it's going to be more, there's no way this is gonna cost the same
No.
exact it's just not,
Absolutely
it's because,
not.
Right.
so knowing this is gonna be more, I mean, if there's any way, like, cause I think I'm still open to hearing about it, but it'd be nice if there are any other expenses that we plan on that are gonna be offset by this, or going to be, instead of this expense for paying someone to do this thing, it's actually gonna be absorbed by this cost over here.
Right.
That would be really, those would be numbers that I wouldn't probably make a decision on whether or not I agreed to rent it if I didn't know what other costs it'd be offsetting, to like kinda get a better idea of what the net total of any additional expense it would cost.
Also, we gotta kind of be careful of what we get, so that if it's really that we kind of feel it might fit our need on a permanent basis. So if we're renting for a month or 2 months, at least we have the piece of equipment that we think that we might be interested in, or a comparable one.
Well, that's actually, the exact piece of equipment that we're sending emails back and forth now
Is that-
was kind of the number one piece of equipment that we wanted to buy,
Okay.
if the price was right.
Uh-huh.
But specifically in relation to what you said, Shelby, I know that Mark and Archie would be able to speak to that, because if they know, Mark knows what jobs he has lined up, whether they be culvert jobs or any of that, and having a piece of equipment on hand would directly affect those jobs.
And those would be jobs you typically would have contracted out.
Either contracted
Or had to rent something
or we would
specific.
have brought in a piece
An
of
additional,
machinery,
yeah.
which would be the same as renting,
Mm-hmm.
and then do the job.
Yeah, so those are just the numbers that'll be really important for me if you guys do find one and get a rental price,
Yeah.
knowing what that really comes down to. And if it's gonna be more than the other when you net it out, or how much more, and then that.
Yeah, see, the tough thing, like, we're trying to get rental prices on the right machine.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of choices for that right machine, so I don't have any idea yet what the rental prices will be for this. And when we get those, that'll be a big deciding factor. But then there's also the thing where if we still wanna use it at their rental price, we try it for a short time and feel like it's the right tool, then they have lease programs where you lease for 5 years and then buy it at the end of that lease for like $1 or whatever, or you can let it go back. So a lot of times if you're renting, they will take that money you paid them for the rental the whole time you had it and apply it toward the purchase. So that can also be a big decision to make if we do rent something that we like and the town is still have an interest in owning.
You're talking like 2 months or?
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say yet. Let's see what the rental.
Oh.
We talked to this guy and asked him for all our options. We want a used machine. They have like 2017, I think is the oldest. And we've asked for a price for the town of Brookline Municipal, what they would sell it to us for, what they would lease it to us for, what they would rent it monthly for, weekly, daily. So waiting for that information to come back and then maybe we can decide how we wanna, whether we wanna do a 6-month lease or just rent it for a month and try to do as much as we can. I think it's all gonna depend on prices.
Because of the lease, you're not gonna get credit towards the purchase, probably.
That's something I think they do.
Really?
I think the
That's not what he just
salesman
said.
that both me and Joe have talked
He's talking
with,
Rental purchase.
check this out ahead of time to make sure a municipality fit their lease.
Yeah, no, I think either way, there's no need to speculate on it. Like I said, we have regular email traffic, so
Yeah, okay.
without a doubt, next meeting, we'll have the numbers. For, even if we wanna, at the lowest end, maybe we just wanna replace the rental we already have with this. At the highest end, we want it for
Right.
3-4 months, so, we'll have those numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely more options to, this is priority number one if it works out. There is some other options we can go with to get work done. Back to this able equipment that we rented the Terex from, they, I guess, sold the machine we rented, and I went online and looked, and every other machine, they've got like a dozen that are large, like town of Newfane got, and they have one other machine that kind of fits our parameter that we chose. And when I looked at it back, when I looked at the other machine for rental, it was at $15,000 for sale. It's an older machine. Now they've got it up to $46,000, and it's an older machine. So I think they've caught on to, this medium-sized machine is a
Desirable.
little more, and they've come up. And it's an old machine, and the parts are definitely not gonna be as available, so. And that's one that would take a mower, it would take any bucket, it would do the job, but it's old enough so you don't know what shape it's in.
Life expectancy.
So ideally, we're gonna wait for the,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd say I would echo Shelby's general sentiment that I'm not opposed to the idea of renting it for a longer period of time, as long as we can
Numbers.
justify
Using it
what
for
we
something
wouldn't
else.
be spending to hire out or contract to use it. Thereabouts.
we can go into it as we want to rent it long-term, but let's try it for the short term and see how we like it, how it works out, and then, see if we're getting our money's worth or if it's over costing and not allowing us to be efficient and get what we want.
Okay. Anything else then on that for now? We'll put that on the agenda for the next time as well. Okay, moving on to 8A, Mr. Tanza, what's your town clerk update?
Well, as you all are aware, it's been a rather hectic week this week with town meeting, which I think was very successful. And the vote yesterday was very successful, and I want to take this opportunity, I don't know if I said it last night, to thank all of you who came to help count, because it made life a lot easier for us all, so thank you very much. And we do have another vote coming up, I just got the ballots today. It's gonna be a little more complex, it's 3 ballots with multiple questions on it and so forth. And that's for March 25th, that's our high school and grammar school budget. So I'm gonna need some help on March 25th for counting. Basically, it's gonna be an easy thing because basically all we have to do is count how many ballots. Then I have to bring them over to Leland and Gray, co-mingle them, and start a whole count. So we'll be there for a long time. We will have counters there because there'll be people from each town. So I just basically wanna get you into the, excuse me, into the mode of this is gonna be an election year. I'm just gonna speculate, from what I'm hearing, there's not too many people pleased with the high school budget. So if that's the case, if it has to be revoted, it could happen 2 or 3 times, so that's pure speculation, but I'm just letting you know. And then we have, August, we have a primary, the Vermont State primary, and then we have the general election in November. So it's gonna be a very busy month for the BCA, and which of you are all members of the Board of Civil Authority. So again, thank you for your help. Animal licenses are, we have until April 1st. There's the rabies clinic, which is on March 14th at the Newbrook Firehouse, excuse me, I must be getting a little tired. And that's from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. And you can also license your pet there, and please have them in a cage or on a leash for everyone's safety, and that's it for now.
Thanks, Guy.
Yep.
Mark, what else is going on?
Well, first of all, I just wondered, Joseph, do you think we should meet again before the next select board meeting and talk about those numbers, or you wanna just see what comes in? And
I'm okay with just sending emails and stuff. We got like
okay,
2 weeks, and yeah, it was just a little hectic this week, but
all right, I'm good with that.
yeah.
All right, so basically, since the last meeting, I did meet with Archie to go over paving, and we're gathering information and making plans as we talked about. The other thing is our warm weather came back to us. We've had some thawing and some ruddy, muddy roads that are come and gone, and it's all about temperature, but it's supposed to get down to a freeze tonight, so I'm planning to go out with a grader after the meeting and try to smooth off some of the deeper ruts in the roads, which I ended up doing once since the last meeting. I got clear down to the end of Ellen Ware Road, and the batteries went dead in the grader. I could just barely see to come back. I didn't have a flashlight with me at the time. But anyway, I spent a few hours trying to find the issue, and I believe what it was, the fan belt was slipping under the alternator pulley. And so I tightened the belts and charged the batteries, and they seem to be working well. I can no longer slip the pulleys under the belt. The belts are they're old, so they're, instead of rubbery and grippy, they're more glazed and shiny. And so once you apply like a dozen halogen headlights off all corners of the grader and 2 24-volt strobe lights, eventually it just slips enough, I believe, to...
Does your cell phone work out on these roads?
Not all of them. But I don't have a flashlight, and I think that's the issue. I'm gonna, if it works well tonight, I'm gonna order new belts and put them on. So yeah, basically, I think we're at mud season, and we're just been continuing to monitor the roads on a daily basis, getting phone calls for the urgent
Yeah.
places are and.
I'm sure you've heard from all the Whitney Hill people.
Yeah.
I've heard from a
And,
number of
and
them
here's
as
the
well.
thing, I would like to explain, you know, we are gonna have mud. It's unfortunate, sometimes it gets impassable. The same areas that are in effect are areas where I have applied a lot of crushed stone when we could. The first time out, trying to back a truck into these places to get stone over these mud holes has ruined the road on the way to this problem. So you're like working backwards to solve an issue. So a lot of times it's all about temperature. If I were to go up there today with the sun shining at 40 degrees and drive through with the grader, I can smooth the surface off. It's like frosting on a cake. But the machine must weigh 30,000 pounds. And as I'm driving through it, I'm making
You're
even
destroying
deeper
everything
ruts.
else.
I'm ruining it for everybody. So there's the timing of being able to get out there at a freezing temperature. It'll start to pack again, compacts, and then I can smooth the surface, and it sets up overnight while nobody's driving on it,
Right.
and the next day it's good. So there's times when I can go immediately, and there's times when I just have to wait. And we have made plans to, you know, when the weather will allow the dump truck, we will put more materials in the.
I also wonder, I had a little bit of a conversation with a couple of people at town meeting about, and I'm just throwing this out there and it's not anything we need to figure out now, but whether, when we get to the summer, we start to get to the fall, whether we need to think a little differently about how much material we might need to try to have on some of these roads, since we're gonna probably continue to get more and more of these warming and cooling periods in the winter, and whether we can plan differently to make it easier for ourselves when we get to that point at all.
Yeah,
And maybe we can't,
I
But-
believe I worked for the
it's gonna
town
be
for,
different now, I guess.
I've worked the roads for maybe 13, 14 years, and right up till the past few years, Whitney Hill has never
Yeah.
created any problems, the past few years. And, we've put stone over the issues, and still it continues. It appears like it's the instant, you know, the areas where the sunlight hits direct on the road. The other areas are still froze, they'll come next. But, it's all temperature and timing, and we do have a budget of $36,000 for summer highway materials. And each summer I do apply gravel where needed, to be able to maintain them and keep them crowned and stuff. So, wondered, you know, we've never had to bring stone out in the middle of winter and fix the road, so it is temperature and, but yes, there's also, I've gone to a lot of meetings, road maintenance, they do make, this netting, it's like you would almost consider it like a snowshoe webbing. Has holes in it, it's like a plastic, I don't know what the exact material is, but rolls of it 12 feet wide where they scrape the surface of the road off in these places that always come around every year, and they roll it out and then put the material back over it, and it acts like a snowshoe to hold the
That's interesting.
But however, you know,
Really
the
interesting.
surface is, you have to have it above where you're gonna maintain, you're still gonna have
Right.
surface mud. It's hard to avoid the surface mud.
Right.
And there's been times on the Athens Road where, well, we got the 80-degree spring a few years back,
Right.
and the only thing I could do was go through with the grader and scrape the mud to one side, get down to where it's froze. The next day,
Yeah.
Perhaps
go down
shelters.
a little deeper
To the
to
point
allow
where you-
people to go through.
And load
After,
is,
after a week of this, you know, it allowed people to go back and forth to their houses.
Yeah.
Then we start pulling the gravel back to the middle and reshaping it once it dried and firmed up. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've gone purposely up onto Townsend Acres Road, Kirsch Road. I purposely go up the Athens Road to see, is our town the only town that's mudding up, having issues? And we're not.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Wardsboro, Newfane, it's mud season, we're gonna have some issues. We try to make sure everybody can get where they're going,
But it hasn't been that bad as in previous years. I mean, we're not getting the snow, we're not getting the deeper frost, yes?
No, I think it's just been that whole up and down
been a
temperature
lot of-
plus
Yep.
rain.
Reflexing.
We've had more rain this winter than many,
Right.
many winters before us, so the ground's saturated. And, you know, each time you drive, permafrost is kind of, it swells, it puffs up. When you drive on it, it compacts it, it presses down, and each time it melts and compacts, it goes deeper. And on roads, the vehicles just keep pushing that frost deeper, deeper, deeper. So then it takes longer for it to thaw out, and you end up with a foot of mud or 6 inches of mud. And until that water can get dispersed,
I just wanted to, you know, and being in the town clerk's office, naturally, we're on the front line when we hear the complaints, but I want to also say that we get some calls that some people really appreciate what you've done. Mr. Ken Lemire from the Kirsch Road made a point to thank the town for what they did at the end of Kirsch Road and Hill Road. So we do get some compliments, and as I said to him, we appreciate it, but like you say, this has been an up and down year, and it's tough. And, you know, the people just have to understand you are in Vermont, dirt roads this does happen with dirt roads. And the other thing is, I did see a logging truck today. I wanted to stop him, but, you know, he's got to make a living, and you would think they would use some common sense, but sometimes they get caught short too. So it's kind of a patience kind of thing for this time of the year.
yeah, I've noticed some of the other towns just put their posters out, and we'll probably do the same tomorrow. And I did check out, I believe there's one logging job going on one of our gravel roads, and I think they're done now. I think they've realized they've gone as far as they can and not create road issues for the town, so I will get signs up and we'll monitor that. And I do appreciate the compliments, and you know, I try to please as many people as I can. I know you can't please everybody, but I enjoy what I'm doing, and you know.
It's not always easy.
That
yeah,
being,
it's not always easy.
that being said, when I brought up the thing about that we were considering doing the RFP for the paving at town meeting, there was no complaints at all. You think that would have been a lead-in for some, well, you know, this road is looking like this, but not one. I don't think we had an entire complaint in the entire meeting, if I'm correct. Anyway.
Well, I guess I'm just pointing. Everyone drives out of Brookline, and
Goes
you know,
everywhere.
when I came home last year, one of the first things that jumped out to me was the roads were really bad in Windham County last year, but they weren't so bad in Brookline. And a good part of that's our geography. I mean,
Sure.
they're not going to get quite as bad as some of the other ones, but honestly, the roads in Brookline are pretty good.
Yeah.
I popped a tire driving through Newfane the other day.
There you go.
But-
Not Brookline, Newfane.
Anything else, Mark? Cool, all right, thank you. Okay, moving on to communications. Emails, just a couple of things. We got an email through Guy about the Municipal Roads General Permit Annual Report that they want us to complete by April 1st. I will take a look at that to complete that. That's on my list. Another email, I guess that's kind of it for stuff that's relevant tonight. We did just get an email about, and Gary Lavorgny also forwarded it to me, about a COVID-19 coronavirus presentation that they're gonna do at the Brattleboro Fire Department next Tuesday.
Really?
For first responders.
Oh.
They're also inviting town officials to come as well. I think I'm gonna try to go to it. We'll see what, I mean, I think it looks like it's about best practices and just preparing people for the
Related to
possibility
that,
that we're all
you
going
get
to
Front
deal
Porch,
with this.
Front Porch Forum. Was it last night or the night before, there was a Lynn something, Forrest, I think his name? Requested,
Forest, yeah.
requested some information from Grace Cottage
Yeah,
about it.
so,
Did you see that? And there was 2 links involved in it, so if anybody gets that, was interested in looking at it. I've actually read to Patty, just so we kept abreast of it, but I didn't go into the links yet. But, you know.
yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there were the links from the CDC.
Which is what all healthcare providers are following.
Everybody's,
It is what it is, it's infection control of the virus. It's
frequent hand washing.
it's
One,
the same exact instructions from the beginning of flu season, but like, do it again.
Exactly.
Vermont and Maine are the only New England states that don't have
And I think Maine now does.
Really?
Yeah, I
that's
think,
the last
I
time
think
they
I,
had.
I could be wrong about that, but I think I saw them on the map when I looked. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time, there's gonna be,
Somebody's gonna get it.
because the other thing is to remember, they've only gotten to the point where people have testing kits most places in recent days. So there's gonna be a huge spike of people who are gonna be testing positive for it now that they can actually
Probably.
test for it, but.
Did you get the notice from the Wyndham Regional that our emergency management plan is about to expire, or getting ready to expire? You know, the plan that we do every year?
We have to do it every year?
Yeah. So
I
I'll,
don't know that I did get that.
okay, I will forward it, maybe she just sent it to me, but it's from the Wyndham Regional Commission. I'll just forward it to you.
Yeah, we can look at that. Okay, then mail, just a few things. There's a letter from Vermont Department of Health with a flyer about town health officer trainings. I will hold on to that. We also got another copy of it, which I'll pass around to Guy about basically the same thing. Another flyer about town health officer training that's going on, one of which has already happened, but unfortunately none of the in-person ones are remotely convenient for us, of course. Then there's a flyer from VLCT about select board trainings.
Which probably directly corresponds to the email we just got.
yeah, that was sent to.
Probably, yeah, it's probably the same.
Don't need that, it's Loin.
And that is it for regular mail. We'll pass around the pay warrants.
That's it. Much thinking.
While the pay warrants are going around, agenda for next time, we'll talk about paving and grinding, RFPs, we'll talk about road equipment, purchase next steps,
I think it'd be a good idea that we,
building update, sorry.
no, I think it would be a good idea to just have a short discussion about town meeting and the
Okay.
fact we made
A
a
little
major
debrief.
change and
Yeah.
discuss a few ideas or things that, excuse me, observations I had
Sure.
that I'd like to bring up.
It's a good idea. Anything else people can think of at the moment for the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to, especially because I'll kind of be out of the loop a little bit, if we can just have a quick conversation, and if anyone has any ideas about any kind of procedures or policies we might wanna approach throughout the year, so we can kind of have like a list of things that we want to try and spend our energy on. Not that like it has to be like the select board, like we're tasked with this, but like if we all bring them to the table so it's on the radar, and then as we each have time and things we're interested in, we could, it's kind of already been thrown out there, that's something we wanna look at. And in addition, maybe create a list of, and this, I'm happy to come up with this list, but kind of have a list on record of things like that BDCC grant that we don't wanna forget about.
The who?
The BDCC grant,
Oh,
for like for the planning, and I'll just kind of just do some really quick cursory research. It's not gonna be a perfect system, but if we kind of start the year off with thinking about those things, so we don't miss them.
We did a lot of in years past, we did a fair amount of ordinances, so there's
Okay, yeah, no, that all sounds good.
Well, I guess, if anyone's watching, hopefully, and then things that are gonna come up over the next couple weeks, the census is, went live, like, yesterday? Or something? The online census is live like now or next week or something. So that's something that I'm sure, you know, we're gonna start getting mail about it, and then, I forgot his name. But, the man that we spoke to.
I forgot his
That very kind man, who's that?
Yeah,
Very nice.
Very nice,
He might,
memorable.
reach back out to us, that's just something that's on my radar, and hopefully everyone fills out the census
Yeah.
accurately.
That's good.
Very important.
Thanks.
Well, testing for now.
The dogs count, right?
I'm gonna look at that list that she gave me, Nancy Burke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for the hell out of the building.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the payroll warrants 2020-36, which is dated March 4th, 2020, in the amount of $1,290.30. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bruce. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2020-36, dated March 4th, 2020, in the amount of $1,290.30, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
New meeting.
Alright, that passes. Next up is, I'd like to make a motion to approve accounts payable warrant 2020-35, dated February 28th, 2020, in the amount of $243,526.15. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joseph. Everybody's afraid to second that.
I wanted to second the little one.
I know, but, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2020-35, dated February 28th, 2020, in the amount of $243,526.15, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, accounts payable is passed as well.
I just have one comment. Gary Livornia needs a big thank you
Yes.
because the lock broke on that front door and he spent several hours fixing it.
Oh.
On election day, yeah.
I mean, we actually had a sign up, use the other door because
Oh, I didn't
he
notice
spent
that sign.
2 hours to try and get it to where we could just lock the building.
Oh, my God.
When we were trying to get ready for everything, he's messing around with the lock because
That's
he couldn't lock the building. So Gary came and fixed it. And I just wanted to make sure,
Gary, you better be
Yes,
watching.
thanks
This is
very
your
much,
one
Gary.
thank you.
yes. And I just,
Let's also
I
reach out
know
to
he
him
watches
and
it
thank him.
sometimes, so I just wanted to make sure he was thanked.
Thanks. Welcome back, although we missed you at town meeting. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn. Is there a second?
That's to the bottom.
Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 8:14.